Hello everyone, this is Genius Yoshi and today we're playing Hades, the Double Dealer, with a super cool ability. I've been really excited to try out this card because his ability is sacrifice one of your other characters to play a character with the same name for free. It basically allows you to shift any character for any other version, whether it has shift or not. But you don't get the benefits of shift, so you still have to wait for the ink to dry. You can't just challenge with a big character out of nowhere. So it's not as good as shifting. So with that in mind, if we want to make the best use of the Double Dealer Hades, we want to bring out a very high costed character that doesn't have shift. Well, shifting is also pretty nice, and we can double down to have coverage and make sure that we have enough characters that can benefit from Hades Double Dealer. But mostly we want a super powerful character that has a much cheaper version and that doesn't shift. And the one I came up with, drum roll everyone, is Mr. Tamatoa. Tamatoa is a pretty strong 8-drop, powerful stats, lots of lore, enter the battlefield ability, which is mostly what I'm looking for. A character that can win the game or pressure the opponent quite heavily. And Tamatoa doesn't have shift, so the only good way to get him into play was, well, I guess you can Mufasa your way into it, use the Mickey Mouse, the 4-drop that will most likely die after you play it. And yeah, these are the best ways, or you just naturally ramp into it or play the late game. And Hades kind of looks a little bit like Mickey Mouse Trumpeter, I'll give you that, except that as a 3-3, he has just more solid stats, and he's more likely to live longer so he can repeat. Also, he's an emerald. So now that I've chosen Tamatoa, we're kind of forced into Emerald Sapphire. And we have access to a cheap Tamatoa, which is the main reason to go this route. 1-4-4-2, quest for 1. It's acceptable to play in the deck on its own. It's not a card I'm excited about, but the 4 willpower will mostly ensure that it's going to stay alive and people have no real reason to challenge it. Okay, and now we need items, and we're going to be playing some Pawpsicles, being the best item in the game, and we also want some more items. Let's take a look here. Ice Cube, Ice Block, that's another deck that seems to be quite popular at this time. The one I'm interested in is Hidden Inkcaster. It's somewhat similar to Pawpsicle in that it's a cheap item that replaces itself. I don't like it as much because it costs more and it's uninkable, but it does have the nice benefit of giving your uninkables inkability. That's fun to say. And I'm also going to be playing a pair of Great Stone Dragons. Why? Well, because contrary to Shift, I need to sacrifice my character, which means I'm sending characters to the discard pile with Hades' ability, and that plays great with the Great Dragon Stone. Alright, and that's enough. That's enough items for a Tamatoa deck that's not super item-centric. I could play more, but really just picking back up a Pawpsicle is pretty good. Because this is a bit of a combo-ish situation, I'll want to have the ability to pick up and discard cards, so having access to some drawing power is pretty important. And we're already playing items, we need some draw, so Hiram Flaversham is an automatic inclusion. Diablo would be a potential candidate, but I'm going to skip him this time, and I'm going to go for Strike a Good Match. Draw 2, discard 1. Also feeds our dragon statue. If we can discard a character, we can just eat it up later, kind of as a side strategy. So that's a little bit of draw. And we have the ink, we have the Pawpsicle. Okay, so we have cantrips, a bit of more serious draw, and Hades with the Tamatoa. Okay, so that's one character that I can upgrade. Is there another nice character that I can upgrade? Well, there is a character that I really like, and ideally I'm looking for something without shift and with an enter the battlefield ability, because I can't challenge on the same turn, and just putting in a big like 10-10 is nice, but it can just be removed, and yeah. So I'm looking for a nice enter the battlefield ability, and one of my personal favorite from the first chapter is Mr. Genie. Genie on the job, enters play, bounces a character, 3/4 evasive quest for 2, so pretty solid stats. The only thing is he's vulnerable to Medusa, which, well, I mean, what's not really? So I'll be playing a full playset of Genies, and we have access to the 2-drop Genie. And we can play this guy over here. Now, if we wanted to be more consistent, we could go after Big Genie Powers Unleashed, as well as Genie Crampton Lamp. That way we have a full 8 small genies and full 8 big genies, and we can sacrifice the small ones to the big ones off of Hades. But we only have 4 Hades, so I don't want to overcommit to that game plan. I do want it to happen, and I want it to be explosive and powerful when it does, but I don't want to be playing bad cards or 2 bad cards just to make it happen. This is about as bad as I'm willing to get. A 2/3 for 2, still decent stats. It just, I want an ability on these cards typically and a bit more, and right now they're sacrificial pawns and the type of cards that I want to ink. I really don't like this Genie. An 8-drop for something that allows me to gain 3 lore when I sing with it, essentially. Not what I'm looking for. I'm looking more for Elsa's power level when I'm looking for a high-costed uninkable. So I'm going to skip on the big genies. And I'm also interested in another one. This one does shift. So I'm going to be going for some Gramma Talas. We have the big one. We have the small one. But I would much rather sacrifice the small Gramma Tala, because I can ink her when I do that. So I can sacrifice this Gramma Tala whenever she's banished. You may put her into the inkwell face down and exerted. So you banish her with Hades' ability. You play the Gramma Tala. And honestly, I'm not 100% sure if you get the trigger. So banish one of your other characters. To me, this is the cost. So that would resolve first, but then Lorcana has this bag synergy. If you know, let me know in the comments below. If I sacrifice the 2-drop Gramma Tala off of Hades' double dealer to play the big Gramma Tala, do I get the extra lore from this Gramma Tala for sending the smaller Gramma Tala into the ink? If it is, it's all planned and perfect. If it doesn't, well, it's still pretty good. But let me know in the comments below if you know the answer for sure. My personal guess is that it does work because you activate the cost and both abilities are in the bag and you get to resolve them in the order you want. And you get to resolve Gramma Tala hitting the battlefield first if that is what you wish. That's my guess. But let me know if I'm wrong. That's what the comment section is for. And now back to completing the deck. So we're at 44 cards. What are we missing? Well, our 2-drop lineup is pretty solid. We don't have too much on one. I really need a bit of early game protection. And one card that's really good at that is Mr. Kit. Also known as Budget Medusa. He's not. But I'm going to start that. Budget Medusa right there. He bounces back weak powered characters into their hand. Seen quite a lot of play. It slows down aggro quite a bit. Bounces back Flaversham. Just a nice tempo play as you transition to the later stages of your own strategy. And I put him in on my top 10. I'm actually going to talk about the Chicken Master. The Bumbling Rooster, Heihei. If you play him and the opponent has more ink, boom, you get to ink the top card of your deck. Kind of an upgrade to Mickey Mouse Detective, which I really love playing anyways. Except Heihei's inkable, which was one of the biggest weaknesses of Mickey Mouse Detective, with the downside of he's not as good on the play. But against a ramp deck, you can still use it, or if you force the opponent to ink a card, which is what the next card is about. Looking through our deck, I am relatively happy with our early curve now. We have a bit of protection in the mid game with Kit, and I mean, these are fairly sturdy characters with Tamatoa and Genie. They can fight a bit. Heihei can ramp, Flaversham draws, and we have Genie. So we're lacking removal at this point. So the last 8 cards of the deck are going to be removal in the form of Let It Go. Let It Go. It's time to see what I can do with this card. And Let It Go plays really well with Heihei because you can force one of your opponent's character into the ink. They now have more ink. You drop Heihei, you catch up, which is pretty nice. And you can play both in the same turn because you can sing Let It Go. And the other song of interest is We Don't Talk About Bruno. I have no idea how that song goes. I'll have to give it a listen and watch the movie. So now we have Kit, Genie, and We Don't Talk About Bruno as bounce style removal. Let It Go as a hard removal. And yeah, our game plan is really to get some tempo advantage. And bouncing is good removal when you're playing tempo. If we can land a Gramma Tala or a Tamatoa early on, we can put the opponent under a lot of pressure. Imagine that on turn 2, Tamatoa, turn 4, Hades, turn 5, boom, you get a giant crab on the battlefield and the opponent has to deal with it. Medusa proof. Not sure why I'm talking so much about Medusa. What do you think, Garu? Sounds like a good deck? Well, all that remains is to see the deck in action with some games coming right up. Let's see what we can do with our double dealer against Amber Steel, presumably songs. But we'll see. We find a Tamatoa, another Tamatoa, big Tamatoa, Gramma Tala, Genie, Kit. So Kit's good. We definitely want at least one Tamatoa. We'll keep the Genie. And we'll send the extra Tamatoa back. Seems reasonable. We pick up a Rooster. I love the Heihei. As the opponent opens up with a Robin Hood. We don't talk about Bruno. Well, don't really need to let it go now. So I'll ink it. Here, Heihei is going to be a pretty nice play. Guess we're on the draw. Definitely Amber Steel songs for our opponent. Oh, and we find the Hades. That's quite interesting. We no longer need Strike a Good Match. Let's land that Tamatoa. It's not a nice target for the opponent to try and ping down, so we'll just land it on battlefield and get ready for Hades to do its thing. Hopefully the opponent doesn't get to sing A Whole New World before then. Opponent drops an aerial, finds nothing. It's tempting here. I really want to play the Heihei, get the ramping done. But kitting away the aerial to make sure I get to land my Hades is quite an interesting option too. Send away to Let It Go. Grab your sword is not too bad here. A Whole New World is really what I'm afraid of. But then again, playing Kit just delays a bit. And I really, really want to land Heihei. But if the opponent sings Whole New World, then my Wombo combo goodness is out. And landing in Tamatoa against this deck is pretty devastating. I'm going to go for the tempo play. Then, of course, I want to protect my Tamatoa. So Kit is going to be my play of choice. Make sure I don't get blown to smithereens. Kit Cloudkicker has been making lists since someone noticed that it was really good. Ooh, and Big Stitch comes to play. Alright. Opponent's not messing around. We don't talk about Bruno. Definitely what I want to play here, but I can't afford it. Instead, it's gonna be Hades. And we'll take care of that Robin. Don't want a big Robin to come shifting in. Now, with Tamatoa Hades in play, we're in a good shape. Still don't really want our opponent to cast a whole new world, because then we're at the mercy of top decking another shiny crab. Ariel comes in. Finds nothing yet again. Oh no, Strength of Raging Fire. That is okay. Unless the opponent has another character and pings down our Hades. Which honestly is pretty likely. Opponent sings grab your sword. That is promising and passes the turn. Ooh boy. We've got this. Alright, Hades, do your stuff. Well, first, let me quest with Tamatoa. I've been accused of badly sequencing things, so I'm going to take a second, do the right move, and then activate Hades. Sacking the Tamatoa to the big ritual to summon the big guy, Tamatoa. Bigger than life. And that Stitch is a problem, so we're going to bounce it off. Have you heard about Bruno? Because we don't talk about it. He just comes in and swoops your Stitch right off of the battlefield back into your hand, so you can dump it into the ink, sing your whole new world, and it'll keep on playing. At least I'm expecting. There it is. Whole new world. Fortunately, we didn't get to pick up an item off of our Tamatoa. But we have a 5/8 monstrous crab on the battlefield, facing down our opponent. Oh, and we top deck a Pawpsicle. That is an amazing top deck. And we have another Tamatoa in hand with Hades in play. Oh man, I love this game. Do I ever love this game. Pawpsicle, pick up a card. Crack the Pawpsicle. Heal my friend Hades. So that it's in the discard. And we'll get to pick it right up after we play Tamatoa number 2. Eat the small crab. Bring in the big crabs. Bring back the Pawpsicle. And, I mean, we have a lot of good options here. I don't overly care for Strike a Good Match. I'm tempted to get rid of Robin, because next turn we can do the Gramma Tala into Gramma Tala. Bruno's not the greatest, but in this particular hand, will allow us to get rid of that Robin Hood. And sequencing, Yoshi, sequencing. I'm a little late on the Heihei. Alright, I'll land the Gramma Tala. Set up for next turn, play the Pawpsicle, and say that it was all planned as we pick up a Genie. You have a spectacular singer facing down a pair of monstrous crabs. I'm not really afraid of another whole new world here, because we'll just pick up more items for our monstrous crabs. I wish I could see our opponent's face right now, which is probably something like this. Or hopefully that they're enjoying the show. It's not every day you see a bunch of Tamatoas getting cheated in a play on turn 5 and 6. Then along came Zeus. And apparently Zeus doesn't like Hades. I don't know why. Okay, I do know why. They have a history. An opponent goes for another whole new world because their hands was full of whole new worlds. All the whole new worlds are in the discard, so we don't have to worry about that anymore. Cinderella comes in. So we have another Rooster. And another Tamatoa. Let's start with the Rooster. Heihei. Pick up more ink. Setting up for next turn. No longer need a gazillion of these mini Tamatoas. They have served their purpose. Let's play a Pawpsicle. $28 cards at 32. Do you want to be careful a little bit? Well, I'm tempted to just sweep the board, prevent our opponent from keeping characters on the battlefield. I won't go for too much extreme lore right now. Just kind of control the battlefield. So I'll heal, because when Tamatoa quests, we get to pick up a Pawpsicle right back. Maintaining our card advantage. Ooh, great. Dragonstone. Gonna ink a Genie. Put it into play, whichever, because I've apparently already inked a card. And quest with Gramma Tala. That seems fine. I was probably going to play the other Genie anyway. Well, no, I wanted to play a Great Dragonstone, but haven't been paying enough attention to when I'm inking cards. I'm just too glittery about my Tamatoas. Opponent's Strength of Raging Fire for 4. Targeting our chicken with Philoctetes on the battlefield. I forget, I'm just supposed to call him Phil. Phil! Whenever a hero enters play, gain 1 lore. That can be potentially problematic. The opponent goes to shift to Robin. Gain a lore, take out Gramma Tala, gain another 1. Actually 2. Our Gramma Tala will go to our ink pool. So we find strike a good match. Well, Genie's going to take out Cinderella. We probably want to sing a We Don't Talk About Bruno. Kind of want to play my Great Stone Dragon. It's also tempting to just pop a Pawpsicle, play another Tamatoa, bring it back. How many turns do I have left? This Tamatoas for 2 bring us to 8. We're still a little ways off, so let's take out Robin. Let's remove some resources from our opponent. Bouncing that Phil back in hand. Then we can ink. Drop another item. Let's land a Gramma Tala. Because why not? Quest for 3. Do we have any items to pick up? I'd like to pick up in my Pawpsicle again. Let's keep our big crabs healthy. And slowly gain advantage. Pick back up the Pawpsicle. Giant crabs to the rescue. Opponent's forced to play Phil again with a Rapunzel. Gaining a lore off of the hero. Let the storm rage on. Taking out our Genie because our crabs are just too massive, too shiny. The opponent can't aim and just targets whatever. As we find a Gramma Tala. That's pretty nice. I think we should shift her in. Let's open up with the Pawpsicle. See what we find. Great Stone Dragon. Actually, we can just hardcast Gramma Tala. So let's hardcast Gramma Tala. And whenever we ink a card, which is going to be a Genie, we're going to gain 1 lore. And yeah, whatever cards put your inkwell, we can activate our Great Stone Dragon. And we have plenty of options. Adding more cards to our ink, gaining more lore off of Miss Gramma Tala. Play another item. So Tamatoa's quest for 4. And now's the question. Do I take out the Cinderella? The opponent can quest for 5. Which means they would need 4 heroes. I don't think the opponent has 4 heroes. Or I could just count and notice that we reach 20 and make my life much easier. And we take the win off of Hades special summoning Tamatoa after Tamatoa trying to beat these big crabs at our steel opponent who just can't survive. Too many crab. We are playing against Sapphire Ruby using our double dealer deck. And we find Hiram, Flaversham, Pawpsicle, Tamatoa, Genie, and some inkables that we don't talk about. Honestly, that seems fine. Going second. Maybe I'll send back 1 we don't talk about, Bruno, hoping for a Heihei. Or a Kit Cloudkicker. Also works. Also, pretty good option. Ooh, Maleficent. So this is a big ramp style deck for our opponent. So we're really looking to combo early and try to get ahead of it as we find a big Tamatoa. Gramma's going to hit the bin, and it's time to pop with the Pawpsicles. Pawpsicle, a mainstay classic. An item that draws a card. Items don't get much better than that. Let it go. Yeah, I'll get rid of Let It Go. Land their Joyous Crab. And pass the turn back. We are missing a Hades though, which limits our ability to wombo combo out our opponent, who lands their own Pawpsicle, as well as a Fishbone Quill. The opponent's starting to run low on cards, but I'm expecting that a Mr. Flaversham is going to turn that around any second now. There he is. Find a Gramma Tala. Well, I don't overly need Mr. Genie for now. So we're going to go Gramma Pawpsicle. Picking up a big Tamatoa yet again. Well, the opponent doesn't have too much in terms of threats. Yes, there can be a Maui, but is the opponent really going to Maui into a 2-drop Tamatoa? Seems somewhat unlikely. The opponent is ramping severely. Madame Medusa is going to take out our crab. I mean, there are better uses for Medusa. That is for sure. Don't think I'm going to need Kit in this particular matchup. As we'll take some extra cards from Mr. Flaversham. That'd be a better hit for Medusa. Quest with Gramma and pass the turn back as we are far ahead, 2-0. But the opponent's all ramped up and ready to drop some bombs. Yeah, we're not ahead at all. I wouldn't say we're behind though, because the opponent is running low on cards, and without a Hiram Flaversham, this can be a little sketchy. We also have We Don't Talk About Bruno, which can hurt our opponent's hand quite a bit. Sisu comes in. Just a nice, clean answer to Flaversham. So maybe this is an Ice Cube style deck, which is quite interesting. Sisu, the daring visitor. Much like Meta Medusa, just blows up characters because she can. Here I think we want to go Heihei into Gramma Tala and just go for more traditional ramping. Opponent's strategy is going to be a little harder once we start dropping up giant crabs. Yes, it is a nice block deck. Oh, and Big Sisu comes in shifting and blowing up our board, which honestly I really don't mind, because it gets us into the ink territory of Tamatoa. Sisu 5/4. Whenever you play it, banish all opposing character with 2 power or less. Now the question is, do I bounce Sisu? Or do I just start landing Tamatoas? This isn't too scary. You don't have good stats to fight Tamatoa, so I think having a Tamatoa just as a character is troublesome for the opponent. Let's pick back up one of them Pawpsicles. I don't think we need to ink anything here. I want to keep the We Don't Talk About Bruno. With the opponent having no cards in hand, it's a straight up removal spell. Another ice block. We can get rid of Madame Medusa and fight Sisu. Or maybe we just point it to Sisu, force one of the two to get discarded, then fight off Madame Medusa. Let's go that route. Fight off Madame Medusa. Hardcast it. We Don't Talk About Bruno. Opponent will discard the cheap one. Then we get to land some Pawpsicles. We find a small Tamatoa. Which is not great, so we can ink that. Have a bit more ink for next turn. Opponent is holding Sisu and a Develop Your Brain. A little short on ink for a big Maleficent. Opponent picks up How Far I'll Go. Draw a card, ink a card. You do have to be wary of Be Prepared too. Ooh, Flaversham comes in. Flaversham's a problem. Fortunately, we don't have any straight up removal for Hiram Flaversham. As we find Hades, but it's kind of late for a Hades. Maybe we just try to outcard our opponent. Quest for 2 with Tamatoa. Pick back up the Pawpsicle. Find another Hades, which again, not the greatest time. I'm not sure if the opponent's playing harder removal spells against the Tamatoa or if it's all ice block dependent. Well, for now, we'll keep on dropping the Tamatoas and assume our opponent's not playing too many copies of Be Prepared. If our opponent is, well, we've drawn some cards. And we can go with the Gramma Tala style strategy. So the opponent's also going after the Frosty Treats. Oh, Flaversham. So many cards. Maui comes in. Opponent is going to go to big beatdown plan. Double Maui. Alright. I get that. It's an interesting strategy. So you play with the cards you have. Double Maui is a bit of a problem. Have Genie as an evasive threat. We can also go Gramma Tala Hades. If the opponent wants to get rid of Tamatoa, he's still gonna have to fight with both Mauis. So maybe we want to leverage Tamatoa's getting a bit more card advantage off of the Pawpsicles. Land another big threat. We can ink this for one lore. Kind of want to land the Hades too. Or maybe we just tailor our hand. Let's just tailor our hand. So we'll pick up the card from the Pawpsicle. So Tamatoa quests, picks back up the Pawpsicle. One more card. Hidden Inkcaster. Let's go for one more. We pick up Hades. That's good enough. Flaversham. Still the source of all the cards our opponent has. Although Medusa would deal nicely with Tamatoa given the two ice blocks. Opponent's going to opt with the double Maui sacrifice. Apparently 2 Mauis can take out 2 Tamatoas. Good to know. And why Maui is still the beater by excellence. So I'll shift the spotlight to Gramma Tala as the opponent's playing their own copy of Tamatoa. Now the opponent's applying their pressure with Tamatoa and a whole bunch of items in play. Find a Genie. Not really what we want. Although this Genie will do the trick. Let's bounce you back, Mr. Tamatoa. Now the opponent is out of threats. Can ink a Genie and play Hades. I can quest. Still haven't seen a Be Prepared from our opponent, so I suspect they're not playing very many. their hands like be prepared, be prepared, be prepared, and Flaversham number 2. That would be bad news for us. So now we're out of the draw engine. But if we have 2, 4, 5, then we need to ink 2 cards, which we don't have. One can keep on dropping Tamatoas for days. We'll keep on bouncing it back. Maleficent. That's a threatening card. Say goodbye to Gramma, Tala. Opponent brawls away our Hades. I'm not sure why the opponent didn't target Genie with that. Honestly, I would have gone with the evasive. Find another Gramma Tala. Let's go for it. Go Gramma Tala. Ink a Hades. Let's strike a good match. Hard cast. Find a Let It Go and a Heihei. Don't really want to talk about Bruno in this particular situation. And our opponent is at 14, so Heihei is actually going to give us a point of lore off of Tamatoa, off of Gramma Tala, bringing the game to 17-8, and our opponent on the back foot. Opponent's also starting to run slightly low on cards, although I don't think it's going to be irrelevant this game. 21 is still a healthy amount. What's funny is if we were even with Heihei, we can always play Let It Go, increase our opponent's ink count, then play Heihei. Gain an extra piece of ink for ourselves. Opponent needs Medusa Maleficent type of combination here. Opponent needs to get rid of Gramma Tala because it wins on the spot. Needs to get rid of one of these two as well. Opponent's now at 14 out of 16 ink. It's a lot of ink. Ooh, opponent has to keep on digging. Flaversham is definitely a good news for us. Means our opponent doesn't have the answer yet. Also, we still haven't seen him be prepared, so I suspect our opponent's not playing any. And our opponent has no answer, and we take the win off of Gramma Talas and Tamatoas, just tag teaming the win. We're playing against Amber Steel. Let's see what the double dealer can do this game. As we find a pair of Genies. Tamatoa Duo of Doom, and the rest we can keep. Seems fine. We'll send back the Genies as we pick up another Gramma Tala and a mini Genie. Alright. Don't really want that Genie right now. Off to the ink. Wendy Darling goes to the ink pool. Lands a Cinderella. Ooh, we find a Hades. That is nice. I send a Gramma Tala to the ink to play another one, because that's where they tend to end up anyways. Phil gets inked. Imperial Bow. Alright, I'm gonna have to read what that does. Imperial Bow. Choosing a hero gets Challenger and Evasive this turn. Okay. If that's what you want to play. Don't think we need Kit right now. Although, with Gramma Tala, we're likely to get more ink. Ooh. I can land Kit, bounce back to Cindy. And the next turn, drop the Hades, and then drop the Tamatoa. Yeah, I really want to drop Hades next turn. Let's go with that route. Kid goes in. Bounce back to Cinderella. Try to mess up our opponent's sequencing so that now they don't have the time to replay Cinderella. I know she's just a one drop, but she loses her effectiveness if you have to play her later. Ooh, Fortisphere. Opponent's playing some kind of artifact tribal items tribal deck. Really like that Fortisphere card. So Kid's gonna go away. Get a quest for a bit. And drop Hades. I don't expect Hades to survive, but if it does, it's going to mean some level of trouble for our opponent. I'm missing an item. And Fortisphere would be fantastic if it wasn't our colors. Alas, it is not. Let's go back to highlight Hades, the double dealer. Tamatoa Summoner. Let's Storm Ray John. No! Opponent's targeting Hades. That means Hades is going to go... Ooh, Hades lives. Wasn't expecting that. Well, our play is straightforward. Tamatoa, sack it. For the big guy. And Cloud can cleanly take out Cinderella. Now we have a big threat. Our ink's a little awkward, but hey. Still paying 4 for Tamatoa? Sounds like a great deal. Really wish we had some items. Top deck Pawpsicle time. Strike a good match. Let's sing that off of Gramma Tala. Find another strike a good match and let it go. Let's discard the second Hades. We don't really need it. I'm looking for an item, so let's sing it again. Hades, you can sing, right? Still no items. Find a Flaversham and a Genie. Feel like I should ink let it go. Alright. We're not hitting it. Let's land a Flaversham. With its 1-6 stats line, there's very little that Amber Steel can do to it. And our ink's going to be spent for when we do find that amazing item someday. 44 cards left. Odds increasing every second. Okay, every turn. Every second might be a little too much. Opponent's looking at our board in despair. Sends the queen. That's all what you want me to do. Into the ink pool. One plays a big Cinderella. I wish I still had my Let It Go now. Let's Storm Ray John. Goodbye, Hades. Cinderella can challenge ready characters. As we find a small Genie that's going straight to the ink, because we need to bounce that threat back. Bye-bye. And now we are slow questing, because our characters only quest for 1. Nice wall of text abilities. Okay, they're not wall of text. They're 3-liners. But for Lorcana, that's small wall of text. Not like in Yu-Gi-Oh, where we're You need to bring out magnifying glasses to know what your card does. Opponent plays a small queen. As we are empty-handed now. Shifts a big queen. Grab your swords. Crash, reconnect. Half our board is dead. And our other half is, well, not too damaged. As the turn bounces back to us, we can play Genie. I think we want to bounce back to Queen. Keep on questing. I've always liked that Genie card. It's a strong ability. It's like a very mini Maleficent Dragon ability. It's balance instead of remove, which is much weaker, but still, it's a big tempo play. If only it was inkable. If it was inkable, it would be a highly played card. I've been finding there's a really big difference in terms of inkable versus non-inkable cards. More than I originally conceived. Well, the opponent can't stop us. They need to take out Flaversham. Actually, they need to activate the bow. Oh, they need to spend 1 ink to activate that? Ugh. Not sure if the opponent inked for the turn. Because we are threatening lethal. Shiny crabs and genies, they do the job. I mean, it is Genie on the job. He does it. He does it well. Let's see what our... Yeah, the opponent, it comes down to whether the opponent has something to ink or not. And whether they've already inked. Because otherwise they need something that they can cast for 0 that takes out one of our characters. And even then we still have a pair of evasives threatening lethal on the following turn. As well as a giant crab of doom that requires to be dealt with. And even that Cinderella is not powerful enough on her own to finish off the so shiny Tamatoa. Opponent doesn't have anything. Passes the turn back by timeout. And we take the win. We're playing against Steel Amethyst. And what do we have? We have Hades, small Tamatoa, small Genie, a pair of Flavershams, and a Hades. Let's send back we don't talk about Bruno and Flaversham, hoping to know which way we're going between Genie and Tamatoa. We'll keep the Flaversham Pawpsicle as our backup plan. So we pick up another Bruno that we don't talk about. Opponent inks a snake and plays us on the hook. Don't really want that Gramma Tala right now. Hidden Inkcaster. Not exactly what I was looking for. I'm mostly counting on Heihei now to catch up on ink. Queen's Castle. And a Mr. Smee. With a captain on board. I'm tempted to play Genie so I can fight with the captain. Hidden Inkcaster's plan B. I think I need to start playing stuff to the board now. Maleficent. Alright, a slower play from our opponent. That's good. That's what we needed to try to catch up. Ah, no, we need the ink first. So we can't really drop Heihei on turn 3. Find another Hidden Inkcaster. which is going to force us to play one, ink the other one. Find another Pawpsicle. At least we'll get a land that. Find strike a good match. Let's take down Captain Hook. Now keep the Pawpsicles. It's tempting to eat one and force Smee to challenge, but if the opponent has another captain in hand, then Smee's gonna survive. If the opponent doesn't have a captain in hand, then Smee would just trade with our Genie, which I'd be much happier with. Opponent can still ink. I want our opponent to ink so that I can Heihei. Okay, opponent goes to Smee. Just quest. Oh, Mim Fox. Triton's Decree. Choose a character and deals 2 damage to them. Alright. I'm not sure why you'd play Triton's Decree over Fire the Cannon though. It works against warded characters, I guess. Alright, well. Beyond on ink, so it's an automatic Heihei. And I think Tamatoa is going to take a backseat now. And our Hades plan is going to go into the ink. Not this game. Let's see what our opponent will do now. Four cards in hand. Need to be careful about a whole new world in this matchup, which would hit pretty hard right now if Robin sang it. Otherwise, Genie bouncing Robin seems very good. Find a Kit. Sorry, Hades. I know you're the highlight, but can't afford to keep you now. Genie on the job, doing some job, returning Robin back into the hood. Could take out Maleficent. And Smee needs a captain, or it's going to go down next turn. Yeah, I don't need to heal Heihei. And we have a We Don't Talk About Bruno for tempo. And slow down our opponent. Benja. I don't overly care about my items, to be honest. And another Robin. Alright, Mr. Smee goes down. Opponent's still on 4 ink. Let's ink that Heihei in for 7. Let's get rid of all our items. Play a Flaversham, eat a Pawpsicle, and we'll bounce a Benja in the process. Well, a pair of Flavershams. That's not good. I'll slow down our opponent as much as I can. That's going to be a Kit. Cloudkicking that Benja. I can quest with these two folks. Opponent can shift the Robin, take out Heihei, go to 15, but then We Don't Talk About Bruno deals with that quite handsomely. I can leave the Pawpsicle in play. That can bait out Benja again. Every turn our opponent is not questing at this point is a good turn for us. Because we've established mostly board control. Opponent does go for the Benja. I suspect Robin doesn't want to trade. So Robin goes to quest. All right. I think I want to slow down our opponent. So let's take out Robin. Let's quest with the big questers. Flaversham can't sing that much. We're gonna play it. We don't talk about Bruno. Goodbye, Benja. I can land another quester. Gramma Tala. Could go for 6 next turn. Alright, that feels like a good turn. I should highlight that we don't talk about Bruno. Opponent shifts Robin. Takes out Mr. Rooster. And then we find a Genie. Alright, that's not ideal. Let's try to strike a good match. Draw 2. When we find another Genie. Let's discard one of them Flavershams. And we can ink the other one. More tempo. Request to 13. Just a little short of lethal. If I shifted Gramma Tala would be perfect. It will allow us to close out the game. And I mean, an item allows us to dig 3 cards deep. Well, 2. We do have 37 cards for big Gramma Talas. So we have some odds. Ooh, a goat. That's dangerous. We find the wrong Gramma Tala. Now, this particular scenario, I don't think there's very much I can do. Opponent's biggest threat is a grab your sword. Or double grab your sword. The opponent would need double grab your sword. Doesn't have the singers for it, so I'll just land everything. Pass the turn. Raise our hands. Do you have it, opponent? Do you have one more point of lore? Oh wait, I know he has the big Robin. Yeah. Oh, there was nothing we could do anyways. That was a close game, 19-20. Doesn't get any closer than that. We're playing against Amber Ruby. Let's see what Hades can do in this scenario. As we open up with a Tamatoa, we don't talk about Bruno. Let it go, a 3 of Pawpsicle and a Heihei. Going first, Heihei is not best, but we can ink it. Pawpsicle our way to victory. Is that the game plan? Let's not talk about Bruno. Let's keep the Tamatoa. I'm tempted to just keep the Pawpsicles with the Tamatoa. And we find a small Tamatoa. That's a nice pickup for sure. Heihei will end up providing for ink unless you open up with Pawpsicle. Pop, pop, Pawpsicle. Ooh, Madrigal. And a Mulan, so a healing deck for our opponent. Let's go for turn 2 Gramma Tala. Setting up a little bit of ramp on our side of the battlefield. Well, I guess if characters quest and challenge, they don't really fight. Is it really a battlefield? Let's call it Disneyland. Ooh, and we top deck into a Hades. That is a tasty pickup. For this turn, let's open up with a Pawpsicle. Do I go for the other Pawpsicle? Or do I land the Tamatoa? Ruby doesn't have overly great removal. I don't think that's why the opponent's playing Ruby at the very least. And Tamatoa is not a prime remove me style target. So let's land the Tamatoa. Provide an incentive for our opponent to challenge our Gramma Tala. And see where we go from there. Half expecting a Rapunzel to come down pretty soon. Not right now because we're ahead on ink. Would Doc. I like Doc. We see a Julieta Madrigal coming in. Heal a character, draw a card. Julieta does it well. As we'll get to ink our Gramma Tala. She served her purpose. We find another Genie. If I don't hit an inkable with that Pawpsicle, we could be in for a world of hurt. So I think I'm going to go with Hades. Hades go? What are the odds that our opponent removes our wombo combo-ish situation here? It's gonna stick. It's gonna stick, right? Has to. Brawl. Opponent banishes our Tamatoa. No! We have nothing to sacrifice to our double dealer as we find another Genie. That's too many. Hiram Flaversham's a nice pickup though. We're going to ink our Tamatoa because we need some stuff in the ink. Let's go for plan B. Card advantage via Tamatoas. Let's find a bunch of Hades. Alright, well, plan B. Beat stick Hades. We can heal it? Do I want to heal? Do I care? I have a Flaversham. These Pawpsicles can turn into cards. Let's not waste them on some healing. I guess I should highlight the Toymaker master himself. Here on Flaversham. Ooh, Flynn Rider. That's a nice one. Sorry, Flaversham, we're not getting a highlight for too long. I have to showcase that Flynn. A pretty fun Flynn. Gain a whole bunch of lore as long as you have the most powerful card at the start of your turn. And Flaversham, not so great in brawls. Alright. Well, Hades is going to get inked. It's time for Genie to do some work. Bounce back that Flynn. Genie on the job. Doing some work. Madame Medusa comes in to take it out. And now I'm in the awkward spot where my Genie on the job can bounce back that Medusa, but I really don't want to. Really don't. So it's gonna be Mother Gottel that hits the hand again. Mufasa comes in. Prime target for a Genie. And opponent inks. I think Heihei is going to hit the ink and will land a Tamatoa. Let's see if we can win this in style with the Master Crab. Picking up a Pawpsicle. Genie will go play defense, taking out Julieta. And of course the opponent can't Mufasa their way into Genie, thanks to his evasiveness, awesomeness. And how do you defeat a Genie? Well, apparently you throw a boss, and that works. Ooh, and the Gaston, seeing some play. That one made my top 10 list. I hadn't seen much of it. Pay 2 less for next character you play this turn. Pretty solid ability. Alright, well, we want to sing Let It Go. Using the Mr. Genie over here. Send that Mufasa to the ink, where it can't harm anyone. We can fight Medusa, or start questing for a bunch. We can even bounce back the Gaston. Or do we want the card advantage? I think we want a bit of card advantage now. Let's heal our Genie because we can. Draw a card off of the Pawpsicle. We'll pick up another Pawpsicle off of Tamatoa's quest. For 3 Pawpsicle back. Land it. Find a Heihei. Then we'll bounce back Gaston. Just delaying our opponent. Then I'll keep a Heihei in hand. If the opponent plays a card, we can Heihei. Otherwise, we can let it go. Force something into our opponent's ink and then use the power of the chicken. Chicken power. The Bumbling Rooster. Look at this intimidating look on his face. Don't want to find one of those on the street. Mufasa comes back. With Gaston. Opponent didn't opt to ink anything. So we're going to use the good old Let It Go trick. At least I think that's what we want. Sing Let It Go. Play the Heihei. Although it's more effective with a Gramma Tala. But still, I have to get rid of that Mufasa before it becomes too much of a threat. Opponent's at 9. Drop the Heihei. Pick up an extra point of ink. And do I want the card or do I want the lore? I think I want the lore at this point. Tamatoa for pressure. Quest for 4/6. Threatening lethal for next turn. Guess I'm a little vulnerable to be prepared right now. Guess if I was going to do it that way, I should have sagged the Pawpsicle, picked up the Pawpsicle again, just to get the extra card. I'm still threatening lethal off of Tamatoa. Well, I don't think the opponent has the answer. Opponent going to 10 ink. Ooh, 12 drop incoming. A Maui. Oh, Maui's not strong enough to take out my giant crab of doom. Need a second Maui. Or a Scar. Alright. Crab power. Well, we have a nice We Don't Talk About Bruno available to us here with the opponent having no cards in hand. Let's see, straight up removal. Two, four, six, seven. let's not talk about this. Medusa, goodbye. I'll pass the turn back. This time really forcing to be prepared. The Genies just gave us a lot of tempo, and between the Genies, the Brunos, and the Let It Goes, there's quite a bit of removal, and our opponent couldn't deal with it as we take the win. Tamatoa coming in strong, even without Hades' just dropping it 4 turns early. It's now time for the post-game analysis. Overall, this deck felt a lot better than I expected it to be for a shenanigans-based wombo combo deck. Hades' Double Dealer is fairly sturdy at a 3/3, and his ability to sacrifice some of the small characters, especially the Tamatoas, is so delightful when you get to land it. Like, you have to deal with big crap. That generates card advantage, or quests for a ton of lore if I have a bunch of items. Now, we don't have a ton of items in this deck, but just questing for 2 or 3 starting from turn 5 with picking back up Pawpsicles is a pretty good option. I was afraid we'd get outpaced and outmatched by our opponent's characters, but with the double Brunos and double Let It Goes and the Genies, it feels like we're always bouncing stuff while progressing our board and putting our opponent behind in terms of tempo. Our top end of Genie, Gramma, Tala, and Tamatoa are pretty good at finishing off the game. It felt like we had enough card draw to keep our hand fairly stocked for most games, so cards were never really a problem. Ink was never really a problem with Gramma, Tala, and Heihei. I didn't see too much of the Great Stone Dragon, but that's a fun card. It's an item. Overall, very fun deck. A bit better. It was better than I expected. I don't think that it's top-notch competitive, but maybe it has a spot in tier 2 or 3 for more serious gameplay. Definitely something that you can bring to your Friday night Lorcana and have some fun, have some laughs, and drop some big crabs to surprise your opponents. I hope that you've enjoyed the video, that you've liked the games. Let me know in the comments below what would be the character that you'd like to use with Hades' Double Dealer. Don't forget to leave a thumbs up, and I will see you next time.